I don't know how much you guys want to talk about it. You haven't wanted to talk about it over the last couple weeks.
You
Chiefs
certainly wrote
lose.
enough fucking notes.
Jeez, guy doesn't like to be prepared.
I mean,
Chiefs lose to the Chargers. Playoff
should
hopes.
we be happy about this situation? Should we be excited to talk about it? Should we want to talk about it?
I mean, I
I think
think
the only
there are
bright
some.
thing out of this is it's confirmed that Patrick Mahomes has never had a snap in the NFL where his team is eliminated from the playoffs.
It's fair. That's true. That is true. This was the worst case scenario for the Kansas City Chiefs. You lose the playoffs, which is
But
you
yeah,
know,
even past the playoff picture, like this was the
this was
worst possible outcome that
literally
we
the
could have fucking
worst
had.
possible outcome. There was only like a slightly worse outcome that could have happened from this, and that would have been a horrific tragedy that nobody would be talking about. But an ACL tear for Patrick Mahomes, which means he's out for an extended period of time. As we talked about, the Packers have Micah Parsons at 10 months. The normal recovery time for an ACL tear is roughly 8 to 9 months. There was a doctor on local radio here in Kansas City, 96.5, that said Patrick Mahomes, pending everything. Obviously, we don't know everything. They've got to go in and do the surgery. I did say Patrick Mahomes could potentially be back for week one, but he would obviously have to be a much different player and just specifically play in the pocket. I think that's probably going to have to change. Like, Patrick's change is just staying inside the pocket, not very much running for probably the remainder of his career, given this injury. But that would have to be the focus going into next year. Otherwise, if he's going to continue to try to be that dynamic player where he does run in his game, that's probably going to be further extended, probably still looking at October or November per return table. But
Now,
obviously, they
do you
don't know
believe that
yet.
timeline, or do you believe that Patrick and the way his body heals very weirdly, he'll come back faster?
It's
Everybody's
not
different.
even just about the way his body heals. Like, I mean, physical therapy and, all the exercises and stuff you do to rebuild that part of your body. Like the obviously the man has loads of money and he's been one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL since he's been in the league, so he's going to have access to all the best stuff and specialists and techniques and all that junk. So I mean, he's got the Jordan Kobe mentality to where like he's going to outwork everybody, and he clearly has every desire in his body to like you know display a certain standard while he plays football. So like he's not going to let an ACL get in the way of getting back to that, because there's plenty of other examples of people coming back from an ACL and being all right.
I mean, look at one of the most freak things was Adrian Peterson coming back as quickly as he did and literally not missing a beat. But everybody's body's different, and we've got good news from Andy Reid already is that it was only the ACL. There was no other damage, and that even the damage to the ACL didn't seem as bad as what it could have been, and so there's some optimism for quicker recovery, quicker timeline. But obviously, we won't know anything until they report on what has happened from the surgery and if anything else was found or if nothing else was found. There's just obviously a lot of unknowns. Trying to put a timeline on it at this point in time would too tough to pinpoint and a little ridiculous. But the speculation on it is interesting given everything that could go into it.
I think there's a lot of optimism on. Let me figure out how to word this. It's not good that Patrick tore his ACL, but there's optimism that the Chiefs are going to end up clearing house with some of the coaching staff this offseason because we did not make the playoffs. Because this should not have happened. We should not be in a position where we're missing the playoffs with Patrick Mahomes as quarterback, with our offense
Uh,
playing this poorly for the whole entire season.
Absolutely agree. I think you can go back and you can look at what EB did versus what Nagy has done as OC, regardless of who's playing the calls. You still have people in Andy's ear and Patrick's ear calling the plays, figuring out the scheme. Um, and there's been a massive fall off in production, not only from Patrick's standpoint, but from the rest of the offensive standpoint. I think you got to point fingers at Brett Veach for constructing the team the way that it was. Andy obviously is needs some blame there. Um, I would go as far to say is there's people outside of the organization, the Chiefs organization, whether it's players or staff, that are to blame for this, and that being the NFL as a whole. A lot of people don't want to talk about it, but you added in a 17th game with no extra or an eight. You've added in an extra week with no extra bye week. In fact, you removed a bye week when you go to the playoffs because only one team from each conference gets a bye week. You've added in Christmas Day games. You've added in Black Friday games. You've made a Thursday schedule more robust, a Monday schedule more robust. At one point last season, you had the Kansas City Chiefs play 3 games in the span of 10 days. You've had the Kansas City Chiefs on, and this is not to blame the NFL for saying the Chiefs are the premier team and that we want to showcase them. That's what you do as an organization. But you also need to have barriers in place to protect players if we're supposed to be going around with this player safety initiative, right? We're protecting quarterbacks. We're making defenses play a specific way. You also need to put in barriers to protect players from themselves and the injuries around them and the timelines that you're going to make them play. And you've got guys playing 3 games in 10 days over multiple seasons with no extra breaks, with no extended periods of layoffs to recover their bodies or to take care of themselves. And the NFL, this isn't just for the Chiefs. This is for the entire, all 32 teams. NFL needs to take a big look and start implementing better scheduling when it comes to this. Maybe we need to remove Thursday games. Maybe we need to remove a holiday game or something in here, or just input an additional bye week, maybe two. But there needs to be additional layers of protection around these players if we're going with this player safety initiative.
You also factor in taking away a preseason game and having less time to prep for a regular season. That's another game. So that's another piece of that is concerning with just across the league seeing all the injuries that are out there.
Looking at it this season, I saw a metric pop up on my feed earlier. Let me see if I can find it here. There were multiple large injuries this year. We had one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight torn ACLs this season. We also had two Achilles torn this season from major players. You had Micah Parsons, Pat Mahomes, Nick Bosa, Malik Neighbors, Tyreek Hill, Tucker Kraft, Zach Ertz, and Marshawn Lattimore, who all tore their ACL. Zach Ertz was that freak one,
You had
and then
Tyreek was a
Scadaboo's
freak one
injury.
too.
you had Scadaboo's in there, and these are just ACLs and Achilles. Then you had Najee Harris and Daniel Jones with the torn Achilles. You've got the other things from where they said that they're going to implement these rules for hip drop tackles that have been breaking ankles over the last couple of seasons, and those haven't necessarily, even though they've been implemented, held to the standard that you put it towards. And so, like again, all these protections that are even being put in place are not being met with the scrutiny that you have immersed them with. And so we've got an issue from the NFL's standpoint between not putting protections in and putting protections in and not standing by
They need to get rid of resistance bands too, because
them.
Anthony Richardson. Whew.
Well, I mean, you're not gonna until the NFL sees a season where like half the starting quarterbacks go out and just a certain percentage of like recognized name players are just out and you're having a game where the 22 guys on the field you can probably name like two of them. Like as soon as the NFL like once this starts cutting into like more so than it is now, cutting into that star power and name recognition and like Fans aren't going to want to cheer for guys they don't know.
I, I can get behind that. I think that is very true, but I would also go as far to say is the league changed two rules very quickly for Tom Brady. You had a rule made up in the middle of a game, the tuck rule for Tom Brady, and then you had another one where in the same exact scenario at the very beginning of the season, Bernard Pollard goes in, tears Tom Brady's ACL, and then the very next season they impart where hitting zones for quarterbacks. You can't hit them below a certain area, and you can't hit them above a certain area. And so, while I do agree that more things would move should bigger names start missing more playing
Well,
time, you've
this
also
would
got
this would
this.
probably be more related to your like scheduling
Sure, yeah, yeah, yeah,
talk.
that makes
Like
that makes more
they're
sense.
they're
Yeah,
not gonna they're not gonna give them more breaks unless we get to the point where we have a bunch of no names playing on the field.
yeah,
You got
and
you
granted,
got
I
enough
mean,
star power, you got enough name recognition. Like the NFL's really not gonna care.
yeah, I would be interested to see if the NFL would even consider talks about something. Obviously, the bargaining collective bargaining agreement is coming up for the players and the NFL.
The
There's
only way
already
the
been
NFL will do
discussions.
this is if they end up getting another game. They'll do the two bye weeks, but they're not going to do this unless they get something in return.
I think that would be a fair trade-off. And I know that stuff has already been in discussion, and why the players and the NFLPA have already talked about potentially doing a lockout, is the NFL wants that 18th game, and I think we'll probably end up getting it, but the NFLPA cannot back down on this. And I think there need to be more concessions made by the NFL in terms of time frame, because obviously we're talking about, you've added in another game, and here's you need an extra bye week. There need to be protections put in place where you can't play 3 games in 10 days. You can't. There has to be ample amount of time for recovery, especially when we're also talking about you're going cross
They
country
should bargain
traveling
for like
all the time.
mandatory periods of rest. Like if you don't get
Absolutely.
at least 5 days in between a game or something like that, then it should be void or something. Like the playing too many games in a short amount of time. I mean, you play one rugby tournament and you realize like, man, I don't really want to continue doing that. Like four 80-minute games in one day. Like you magnify that to a professional level in a sport where you feel invincible and you're completely unhindered by your inhibitions because you got pads on and a helmet. Like you can't be making them even play 2 games in less than a week because I mean that's criminal.
Some things are going to have to change, and I mean, refs have been bad. We've talked about that, and that's not anything to necessarily harp on. That's not a Chiefs thing. That's a sport thing, even because it goes into college as well. The NFL has a lot of things that they need to get cleaned up, and scheduling and rest, this player safety initiative, is definitely one of them. And that's not like specific to Pat. Even in this scenario, that's, this Chiefs team has played what, 2 additional seasons, maybe 2.5 additional seasons over the last 8 years, 7 to 8 years, with their playoff runs. It was inevitable that this was going to happen, given that the way that the NFL wants to make these scheduling things happen, and it's no one thing that caused this season to come apart for the Kansas City Chiefs. But I would go out on a limb and say that the NFL and their scheduling played a large part in how this played out.
Them boys are tired, man.
And boys want to go to Cancun.
Let them have it this offseason. And when speaking about the Chiefs off seasons or the Chiefs optimism to change certain things this offseason, um, staffing changes will be nice. Some scheme
They'll
changes,
happen.
new player additions. that's when you start to lose a little bit of the optimism because we've talked many times about how the books look terrible for next year. 36 guys under contract, 40 mil over the cap. Um, is is the optimism misplaced? Is there a real chance that the roster gets retooled to where when Pat comes back, he doesn't have to do it all and and run around with it like a chicken with his head cut off? Or are we now 2 years looking at a 2 year rebuild instead of just fixing it in one off season?
We're definitely going to be fixing parts in this offseason. It's not going to be a full fix, but with Pat, anything can happen, so you never know. But I I think honestly, I hate saying it, but Veach has got to go. We got to get some other voice in there to do something different. What he's been doing recently, he's been getting some good players, but where he's missing is not what we need right now. And some of the contracts he's been giving out has not been helping us in the way that we thought they should be helping us. So just getting a new voice in there, different different voice, drafting people, something like that has got to change for it to be that full rebuild where we can't
I'm
rely on Pat
When
for
it comes to
everything.
staff changes, I'm not ready to boot Veach out. Like I
I'm not
want
ready to either, but
I
I'm just
want a scheme
trying to be
change.
realistic.
I want different route combinations. Some
That brings me to another point
I
that I've
want some
seen though.
different personnel in the offense, but I'm not ready to give up on Veach.
The
Now,
route combinations for these
if he
receivers
throws a
though.
dud in this draft, like I'm I'm ready to, hear somebody else, give somebody else a try drafting players, but I'm not the man has done a lot for us.
He
This
definitely has.
offseason,
But going back to route combinations, do you think that it was Patrick throwing hospital balls, or do you think it's just that the opposing team knows exactly what routes we're running?
both,
Since there's not a
So
big difference in
both.
I
combination
did
for our
see
routes.
well before this game this weekend, I did see some film analysis on the Chiefs offense where Andy runs uh, trips and the same route combination with the same look um, every time he comes out in it. What I think for me, what it comes down to is there needs to be route combinations where guys get open quicker in specific situations. We've had plenty of times where Pat needs to get the ball out, but nobody's open because nothing's developed. And he's just in general, he got hurt because he was holding on to the ball. He needs to get the ball out faster. And when you get that success with quicker throws and better schemed routes, the other stuff will come. The confidence builds and other things start to fall in place. Pat can't continue, I mean, especially when he comes back with off an ACL, but we've been saying this all season. Pat can't continue to feel like he has to do it all when A, the play calling isn't situationally effective, and B, the rest of the roster just has been falling short. Receivers aren't getting separation. All positional players are dropping passes, and then we lose the highest paid guard in the NFL to injury, and we have no run game.
Yeah, there's a lot that needs to be unpacked this offseason from scheme, and it's not like it's both, right? It's scheme and it's Pat. Uh, every nothing meshed well. We go into this offseason, and any optimism is going to be totally based around if Patrick Mahomes can make it back in time to make a difference, right? Or is it going to be the Joe Burrow situation where the Chiefs are already out of the playoffs by the time Patrick, or near out of the playoffs by the time Patrick Mahomes can make it back, or can he make it back when there's still games to be played?
So do you
The
think in that
biggest
sense,
But
in this offseason, the team's going to go lean more heavily on getting defensive pieces or offensive pieces?
the
I can't
biggest
have any optimism with the way the books look. is what I'm saying. Doesn't
and
matter if
and that's
Pat comes
where
back. If we don't have any money to pay anybody to get new players, it doesn't matter when Pat comes back.
and that's the biggest piece. That's where I wanted to go this whole time. Is this is not like Veach is not leaving now, but I will say this offseason and how next season goes will probably be the determining factor on if he will return for the season after. 40 million over cap on the books, 36 players currently on the roster. You currently have one going into next season. You currently have one running back, Brashard Smith. You have three receivers. Your number one tight end is Noah Gray. Your number two is Jared Wiley. You've got another guy on there who was on the practice squad. Defensively, you have no Sam linebacker. Leo Chanel is not under contract. Potentially could be. We'll see. You've got one safety. Brian Cook isn't there, by the way. It's Chamari
Even if
Connor
he
and
does get
one
under
other guy.
contract, it's not like he's going to be on the field. He's on the field for 2 downs a
uh,
series. Like they take him
J-
off.
Jaden Hicks is on the books, but so that leaves Hicks and Chamari Connor. I think you have Trent McDuffie and one or maybe two other safeties. Drew Tranquil will be on the last year of his deal. Defensive line is decimated from exterior to interior. You've got nothing.
I like Ashton Gelati.
Well, I mean, as far as like depth goes, like you've got almost nothing. And I do like Ashton Gelati a lot, but that leaves Ashton Gelati, FAU, and George Karloftis, and that's it. You've got Omar Norman
Omar
Lott,
Norman
and you
Lott.
have that's interior. You've got
That's another
Omar Norman
ACL.
Lott,
That's another ACL tear
another
though.
ACL tear there. And you've got Chris Jones, and that's like it for the defensive line. So what do you do moving forward? Like Mike Dana's going to have to get cut. I forgot about him. He'll make some room, about $9-10 million in cap space. You'll cut Juwan Taylor. That'll make $20 million in cap space. You've got a lot of moves that you have to make, and a lot of cuts that you have to make just in order to get to zero, and then come back in. You've got five picks. That's not a lot to retool a team with 36 already. You're probably going to have 30 left at most by the time that you get to making decisions, or that you've got 30 guys on the roster before draft picks that you have to get at or slightly underneath cap space. And so whatever Veach can do this offseason and make for next season, for this upcoming season, will be the determining factor, and then the performance of next season will be the determining factor if he is brought back in 2027. Will that is what I believe. Don't forget that he is not a Clark Hunt hire. Don't forget that. Andy Reid is the reason why Brett Veach has the job. And that doesn't mean that Brett Veach didn't earn that job. Andy Reid was given the reins to bring in who he wanted. John Dorsey stayed as the GM of the Kansas City Chiefs during Andy's beginning seasons because Andy allowed it. John Dorsey was fired because Andy said he needed to be fired and didn't want to work with him anymore. And they brought Brett Veach in because Andy said so. If
And do you think
Andy leaves
Andy's
at
going to
any
say that
point
about
in the
Nagy
next,
though? Do you
what's
really think
that?
he's going to say that? Do you think Andy's going to say that about Nagy?
Nagy, there will be conversations and understood that Nagy will need that coaching changes will need to be made, and Nagy will be one of them if he does not leave for a head coaching gig, which he is
I hope he
probably
does
unlikely
leave.
to get.
I hope he leaves.
Um, but all that to say is whatever happens in this offseason and the performance of next season will determine if Veach is staying on. That could force Clark's hand given the limited remaining time that we have with Patrick Mahomes in the NFL.
Didn't Tom Brady go a full decade between Super Bowl wins?
He did. He made a few. He made a few. Lost a few, but he did go a decade without winning.
It's still the weirdest thing how they both have Patrick and Tom both have three Super Bowl wins before year nine, then both in year nine tearing their ACLs as
ACL
well.
tears, yeah.
It's weird.
I mean,
Weird
Another
as
one of those
coincidence.
coinky
those two names will be talked about forever. And I've mentioned this before when we were on the subject. Pat has to be kicking himself that he didn't beat Tom Brady in the playoffs because regardless of how many Super Bowls he gets, he will always have that against him in that debate. He couldn't beat Tom when it matters. He couldn't beat Tom in an AFC Championship game on the Patriots, and he couldn't beat Tom on the Bucks in a Super Bowl.
Do you think
I
he's
saw a
always going to have a
tweet.
grudge towards D Ford
Should
at all times?
absolutely should.
Man, there was a lot of bullshit calls in that game though.
Chris
There
Jones
was.
roughing the passer
Roughing the
by
passer, man.
tapping his
I
shoulder. That
don't
was wild.
I can't
Uh,
I don't think I'll ever get over that one, dude.
no, that was wild. The season is over for the Chiefs. It's not over for us. We'll still be here
There's no
talking
pressure,
all the
guys. We just
playoffs.
go out there and just throw a bunch of stuff and see what sticks, you know?
What if Gardner is like the second coming of Jesus now?
Bro, you saw that pick he threw at the end of the game, right? The idea was to give Travis Kelsey a shot at the ball, and he threw it right to the defender.
I blame the offensive coordinator.
So,
I
yeah,
bet I
okay.
bet Veach is pretty happy now that he didn't make that trade for Brees Hall because it wouldn't have mattered. It's like, see,
Well, I mean,
You
if
never
we get
know.
a more dynamic running back, game flow goes differently. Pat doesn't have to be scrambling like that,
Pat
bro.
probably doesn't tear his ACL. Yeah, no, that's 100%. Matt
So,
Nagy would have kept his job though, and I'm okay with that.
boo.